And welcome back. We are now going to go ahead and start making our pixel art map. So to do that, let's go ahead and get started by making a new canvas. And I'm going to set this up actually as 384 by 384 because that's going to give me a 12 by 12 grid here that I can work with. And let's go ahead and tap Create, Control 0 to zoom in. And let's turn on our guides. So I'm going to go to View, Guides, and do a new guide layout. And again, I'm doing 12 by 12 here because I want each of these squares to be 32 by 32 pixels. Go back to our resources here. And if I go ahead and try to start working this, remember we created all these different layers here. And if I try to copy things from here, I'm not going to necessarily get what I want because I have all these layers in place. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the Shift key and select all these layers. Control C, Control V to make a copy of them. And I'm going to then right click on these and use Merge Layers. And that's going to create this Merge Layer option here. So I'm just going to rename this as Merge so I can keep track of that. And then I'm going to go ahead and actually hide all my previous layers. Control 0 to zoom out. And use my Move tool to go ahead and put that right up here into the upper corner just so I have a nice, easy, clean visual reference. Alright, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my Zoom tool and zoom back in on this sector here. And let's go ahead and start moving these pieces into our map. So to get started, let's use our rectangular selection, our rectangular marquees right here. And I'm going to grab the bottom 32 by 32 square of my island here. I'm going to go ahead and use Control C to copy that and paste it into this area over here. And let's use our Move tool. And one of the nice things is I can go ahead and get a nice visual snap here between these edges here. If yours is not snapping, you might have to go to View and make sure Snap is checked. If it's not checked, please turn it on. It'll make your life so much better here because then you won't have a stray pixel or two leading over these edges. Now, once you have this in place, you can pick a good starting point. The next thing we want to do actually is to create a new layer. And this layer is going to be our guide layer. So this is kind of to give us a visual reference of where we want everything to go. We actually want to put this layer beneath our actual map layer. So I'm just going to rename layer 1 to map. And so the guide, we're going to actually use our pencil tool. Let's make that black here just to kind of good reference and actually increase the pixel size just a little bit here so we can get a nice good visual cue. And I'm just going to go ahead and trace myself just a nice kind of random shape here for the land. And I'll make a couple other land masses here. Again, it doesn't really matter a ton of what this ultimately looks like because you can make your own map, you could do your own design. This is just one I just drew up. It doesn't have to be super beautiful. In fact, it's very crude what I have here. But let's go ahead and use this now as our design. So I'm going to go ahead and switch to the Move tool now. And before I had made this like little corner piece up here, and this works really good. But what I want to do is look in any other area of a map where I have this kind of bottom corner. So if I move this for a second here, we can visualize where this guide is going here. So I'm just going to go connect this back in the guide real quick. You can see this is a kind of a downward turn of this corner. So when I put this downward turn of this corner here, it fills that piece in. So what I want to do now is look where else do I have in this map where I have this same visual representation. And so I said, well, there's a nice kind of downturn piece right here. And then you could argue there's something right here, but I might actually end up making this kind of more of a straight piece here. And we have a piece up here that has a nice corner to it as well. And I might also do something here because we have, again, another corner turn as well. And also probably do one for this corner. All right. And that's giving us some nice visual pieces there to kind of get started with. I'm going to go back to my pixel art map, use my rectangular marquee tool, and I'm just going to drag that selection now over to this middle area that we had previously worked with. Control C to copy and go ahead and Control V to paste. And let's use our Move tool now to go ahead and put that into every zone where you kind of have these bottom sectors here. And if I hold down the Alt key, remember I can get this double-headed arrow here where I can easily go in and start making copies of everything and start making these edges appear. And so as I do this, you'll notice as I start adding these different pieces of land in here, it allows me to very quickly and very easily make additional pieces without having to constantly go back and forth and make a whole bunch of different copies. Now, if I'm not sure on certain regions, like I don't know of how I want this to snap together, I can leave this here for now, and I can always copy that over later. But I'm just going to go back to my original resource here, use my marquee selection, slide that selection on over, and let's go ahead and grab this corner now and paste that in. Again, using the move tool, I'm now going to go ahead and start using this to fill in corners such as this one. I might say, I want this corner to be filled in here. Maybe I want to come out a little bit further. And so this looks pretty good here. So I might say, actually I want to go ahead and put this here to kind of represent this corner piece right here. And then again, I'm going to go ahead and start looking where else can I put this corner piece in here to kind of really start bringing this map together. And I'll go ahead and do one more with you real quick. And same process as before. I'm going to go ahead and grab this vertical piece, copy and paste. And using our move tool, let's go ahead and just slide that into place here. And you can see with holding the Alt key, we can very quickly start populating in some of these edges that we may not have had access to previously. All right. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and pause the video. I want you to go ahead and continue grabbing the rest of your pieces from here. We'll talk about this here in just a second with these inner pieces. But I want you to go ahead and finish this selection. When we come back, let's see how you turned out. And welcome back. Hopefully you enjoyed that challenge just a little bit. As you can see, here is my visual map here. And I, of course, have placed in most of those pieces just from this first square alone. However, you'll notice that we do have some of these pieces which are more of an inside turn here that are on my map that I need to actually use this piece to reference. Now you might have went ahead and say, oh, I can understand how this works, but I wanted to show you just the difference that with these pieces are going to make. So I'm just going to go ahead and grab this very first piece here, copy that over, and paste it in. And I want to make sure that with this, that when I paste that in and move that into place, that I'm making sure that it's helping snap in here really nice. Now, if you did your pieces correctly here and make sure that you had a square piece here and follow this in how we did it earlier, you should have a nice, clean visual image here where these pieces come together. If you didn't have a square piece, you're going to have a little bit of a gap here in your pixels, and that's not going to be as nice of a visual presentation. But once you've done that piece, of course, it's not very hard to very simply take and start making the copies to fill in the rest of your map to go ahead and get this so it's in a nice visual state that's going to be presentable for the rest of your map. So I'm going to go ahead and again pause the video. I want you to go ahead and now take these pieces here and bring them over into your map here, and let's just see how that all turns out. All right, and I hope that your map turned out just as well as this. Now there are a couple small housekeeping things that we need to do here. If you notice, we have, of course, our water here, and we do not have a square dedicated directly to the water, and that is perfectly fine here. We, of course, could make a square that is the water, especially if you wanted to make, for example, some different kind of effects or maybe a different coloration for our water. We want to show like the deep sea and stuff like that. But what we're going to do here is we're actually just going to go ahead and fill it in with the exact same color that we have. So before we do any of that, though, we need to take all of our existing layers here and merge them together as one. And you probably have quite a few layers here. So I'm just going to hold down the Shift key and grab everything except for my guide layer. And I'm going to go ahead and right click on those and merge those layers together. I can also go ahead and hide the guide because I do not need that anymore. And I'll just go ahead and rename this again, Vista Map. And let's go ahead and grab our eyedropper tool to go ahead and color pick the blue color of our water here. Switch to our paint bucket. And let's go ahead and just with a simple click, we can fill that zone in. And you can see just like that, we have created our very first pixel art map. And it is a very beautiful map. But of course, there always are things that we can do to improve this. There are different things we can do to add a little bit more richness and texture to our islands or even to the water itself. And so in our next lesson, we're going to come back and revisit some of that and actually make our land look even better.